political commentator Piers Pottinger joins us in the studio now. When you see such a failure of humanity like this, Piers, it's hard to know where to start, to even question where this goes and what the military strategy must be when you see children in intensive care hospital beds, babies, and if they move, that is a death sentence. It is the worst of humanity, and it's also the best of humanity in those doctors saying we will not leave their sides.
Yes, I mean, it was very moving, that report. But Hamas, I'm afraid, the masters of terror, have got Israel exactly where they want them. And not only does Hamas torture and murder innocent civilians, Israeli civilians, they obviously don't give a damn about their own people. Yeah. Because they knew full well Israel would have to retaliate, and they're also doing their best to stop people getting out of the country. It seems that they are being very, very instrumental in not getting the Rafah border open by dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, particularly. And you also have this added problem for Israel, which, although they've got hundreds of thousands of troops massed on the border, when they get into Israel, the Hamas terrorists themselves are in this huge network of underground tunnels. The Hamas said in 2021 they had built 311 miles of underground tunnels, funded by Iran, of course. And the problem there is these tunnels, unlike in Vietnam, where they were very effective, the Vietnamese tunnels were in the countryside. These are in an urban setting, in a very densely populated area, with thousands of civilians living above these tunnels, which means it's very difficult for Israelis to attack them without killing lots of innocent people. And Israel is acutely aware of the international concern about trying to retaliate without loss of life, unnecessary loss of civilian life. Unfortunately, that seems impossible. And so Hamas are reveling in the fact they've got Israel boxed in. At the same time as Hezbollah now becoming more and more active, which is incredibly worrying. You have Iran making threats. The Iranian foreign minister on Saturday went to Qatar, where he met the head of Hamas. The Qataris themselves are coming under pressure for harbouring the head of Hamas in this way and allowing the Iranian foreign minister to go and have these meetings on their territory. Now, Qatar is the biggest commercial landlord in London, for example. It owns huge amounts of property in Britain and many other assets, including the famous department store Harrods. Now, I mean, again, it seems absurd to be talking about a British department store with what's going on, but the repercussions of what's going on are vast. And Hamas have realized they've timed this brilliantly from their point of view. They knew that Israel was weak because they were about to sign a pact, we believe, with Saudi Arabia, which has made them do this now. And, of course, splitting up the Middle East and Saudi Arabia's stated enemy of Iran, supporting Hamas, the energy prices going up. I mean, this is not going to stop in a short space of time. And despite Blinken's admirable attempt at diplomacy, flying around and talking to everyone, Rishi Sunak had the head of Jordan in, and Jordan has been traditionally a very useful conduit diplomatically in Middle East crises in the past. But I think Hamas, unfortunately, are holding all the cards at the moment, and they know it. And that's what's so worrying.
It's interesting you say that would you go so far as to say that Hamas have the upper hand here?
Yes, I'm afraid so, because they've already...
Even considering the size of Israel's army, even considering the Western support that Israel has?
They've pushed them into a sort of catch-22 situation where the Israelis will not be able to wipe Hamas out as they said they would without a huge amount of lateral damage, with lots and lots of innocent people killed.
Yeah.
Hamas know that, and they don't mind if it's even though they're technically, they claim their own people. That's what's so horrific about a terror group. That anyone's life, even their own supposed people, it doesn't matter to them because they're so fanatical in what they want to achieve. Yes,
martyrdom.
And so just to be clear, so the hostages inside Gaza, the Israeli hostages, which Hamas will be using as a human shield to protect the terrorists, Hamas are also, by so many Gazans staying in that area, Israel know that if they go, that's where you mean they're using their own people as a human shield.
Yes,
because the civilian collateral of a significant Israeli assault, be that via the ground or from air.
Well, there are about 500,000 people, I think, still left in Gaza of the Palestinians, and most of them are living above tunnels where the terrorists are operating from, where they store their weapons, where they store all kinds of supplies, and they are living above that, which means that the Israeli drones and bombs, well, the drones are not effective because they can't see below the buildings, but also if they bomb the buildings, they're going to kill thousands of innocent people. And Hamas have, known this right from the start. And that's why they built all these tunnels.
Can I ask you, Piers, what is the best case scenario?
The best case scenario is
the loss of life.
Is that somehow a ceasefire is agreed. And but the trouble is, I don't know how you can negotiate with Hamas. I mean, they're not a group of people who are interested in ceasefire or negotiation. They are reveling in this slaughter. And no one should lose sight of that. And the Israelis are in a terribly difficult position. And also Netanyahu himself, the leader of Israel, is not in a strong position in his own government. I mean, the political situation within Israel is far from secure.
Yes, so just to put it in a little historical context, he was deeply unpopular last weekend when this invasion happened on the 7th of October, wasn't he? His people were almost turning against him.
Well, because normally the Israelis are so adept at intelligence and preempting any kind of strikes, and they've somehow missed this. And so his own defence ministry and all the people involved under Netanyahu, and he's the boss, so he takes the blame, had to take the blame. That's why, of course, Hamas knew he'd be under huge pressure to retaliate with everything he could. They must be a little bit disappointed they haven't already gone in and are actually holding back, because from the point of view of that Israel have got to hold back so that they can say to the international community, people who are already beginning to criticise them without them even having gone in yet, but they've got to hold back in order to say we've given people time to leave, we're trying to avoid civilian deaths, but it's going to be, for the reasons I've just explained, impossible to avoid that. And Hamas actually want them, I'm afraid to say, to kill as many of their own people as possible. Ridiculous as though that sounds, that shows you the kind of people we're dealing with these vile terrorists.
Well, this is one of the major problems. Lots of calls for restraint. Israel to, restrain itself, not go in, and the fear of so many lives. But then, as you also mention, one cannot negotiate with a terrorist group like Hamas. There is no peaceful solution to be found with Hamas.
No, it is a really dreadful situation, which in the short term I can only see getting worse, I'm afraid.
You see, I don't know if there's been enough calls for peace. I can't think of any major leader of any country that has come out and asked for any sort of ceasefire.
Well,
Hamas wants to annihilate Israel and the Jewish people. So what peace can be found?
Exactly. And also, I'm afraid to say, the Muslim world, and, there are an awful lot of Muslims in the world, they have remained remarkably silent.
Yes.
And that is also deeply concerning.
And that's I think that's partly what I mean, but also obviously in that immediate aftermath of the last weekend when Joe Biden was saying, this is evil, he actually, this is evil, and it is evil, don't get me wrong. And obviously the weight of the international community was behind Israel striking back as hard as it possibly could, understandably. But where are the leaders saying, can we all just stop killing people and come to some sort of diplomatic solution here?
They're trying. I mean, they've sent Blinken all over the world trying to do this. As I said, Rishi has been talking to Jordan, who is a traditional conduit for this sort of thing, through to the Muslim communities. But you've got Iran, who actually publicly said they were supporting Hamas and, believed this was a good thing Hamas were doing. You've got to bear in mind that the large swathes of the international community are silently supporting Hamas, which is a terrifying thought. And also in Britain and in Europe, we're already seeing anti-Semitic outbursts, some killings. And it is a really scary time.
And let's remember,
for the civilized world.
If it weren't for the Iron Dome and Israel's defences, there would be carnage in Israel at the moment, ongoing.
Right, thank you, Piers. OK.